Well, welcome to church, everyone. Have any of you been into the church office since it got remade there? Up on the wall, on the bright yellow wall, which doesn't really match anything, but it's kind of perky. On the yellow wall, you'll see a bunch of pictures, which are really called icons, which people, they say they write the icons, even though it looks like a painting. And there are different saints that are famous in history. You'll find there a picture of Mary, or I should say an icon of Mary, an icon also of some of the apostles like St. Andrew. These are people throughout the church's history, a long history, that really, God shone through them. God lived through them, so that when you hear things like, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, turn the other cheek, these are folks who did that kind of stuff in their life. We remember them as amazing human beings. But I should be honest with you, that those saints, because I don't know them or I didn't know them personally, sometimes I don't have the emotional connection to them that I do to other people in my life who also reflected God to me. Those are saints of the church. We honor them, we remember them, we give thanks to God for their, how God used them. But the ones that really have an emotional appeal to me are different. They're the ones that connect with me personally. Have any of you ever heard a song with this lyric in it? It's an old song from the 1980s. Hey, not that old. My Maserati does 185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive. That was the song, it was part of my high school days in the 80s, I think, maybe 70s. My brother, Stephen, was back in the house. He's an older brother of mine. He is like 7 years older than me. And we had been apart for a while because he'd been off out of the house, but he was back home for the summer. And we were lifting weights together in his old bedroom that he used to live in, but he was back visiting. These are the old weights on a homemade weight bench that I had found in the trash and had remodeled. I even put a little movable board on it so I could do inclined benches in the house, which is really not good to do by yourself, by the way. So I was happy to have my brother Stephen back with me. And for a few weeks that summer, we got to be like brothers again. And these are the weights that, they were metal weights, but they were the old kind where you had to screw with a wrench the cap on. Every time you changed the weight, you had to put more weight on there and take them on and off. And that was the song that was on the radio that summer, along with the Rolling Stones song, which he would sing, and whenever it came on, he would say, how'd it go? Party like we used to. Anyway, my brother and I got to look up to him. And I loved the fact that we could lift weights together in the basement in his old bedroom that summer. And he said to me, because I was lifting weights and I was younger than him, he said, you're always doing the things that I wish I had done. Because he wished he had lifted weights earlier on in life. And then my brother died in 1984. And I always remember that song now. My Maserati does 185. I lost my license, now I don't drive. Because it reminds me of my brother and the time when I got to feel his love for me while we lifted weights. I'm sure he was not one of the great saints of the church, right? He wasn't a I don't even know if he was a Christian. I know he wasn't a theologian. But I know that God's love to me came through him. So he was one of the saints. When we come to All Saints' Day, I always remember my brother Stephen. Because he's important to me. He's a saint to me. I know he was not sinless. I know he had led a crazy life. But God's love for me came through him. So he is one of the saints in my life. I wonder who the people are in your life. Not the ones that are hanging on the wall, but the ones that meant something to you and how God loved you through them. Those would be your saints that are most important to you. I wonder who you could remember today, and just be grateful, not sad that they're gone, but really just grateful that God gave them to you for a time. Be appreciative and thankful to God for those saints in your life. This is the phrase I want to remember. It says, for every lunch, for every dinner, and for every match. See, I couldn't remember one thing in particular that comes from my mom's life. But she made me lunch in school every day. And she made us dinner every night. And she went to almost every one of my tennis matches. I began to play tennis when I was 8 and was in innumerable matches and tournaments and lessons. She drove me to all of them, back and forth. She was always in the bleacher or always up in the chairs watching me whack balls around the tennis court. So I can't tell you one thing that my mom did, except that she made me lunch every day for school. I was the kid with the best lunch in school, and she made it with such care. And she had those baggies she folded over, and they fit just right. And there's always a sandwich, and there's always grapes usually, and always fruit. And Mom was a nurse, and she always wanted us to have a balanced lunch. And there's always raisins and potato chips and probably a yogurt. It was like this giant lunch in a little bag. And she folded the corners over just right. And she's always, don't forget your lunch. When you go down to the bus stop to get picked up, don't forget your lunch. Take your lunch with you. And the mom would usually have dinner ready at night. She's one of those people who could cook well. One of her gifts, one of the ways she loved her family was kind of through food. And we always set the table every time for dinner. Well, not a fancy table, just always set the table. Placemat, knife, fork, and spoon, and glass. Everybody got their glasses filled up with whatever they wanted to drink. We always had all the silverware out, no matter if we were going to use it or not. Right? You could be having tacos, but you always had a fork and a spoon and a knife. And so Mom always got us dinner. And of course, she went to all my matches when I played tennis. High school matches, junior high school matches, summer tournaments, endless driving around. So for every lunch, for every dinner, for every match, Mom was one of the saints in my life. And she died in 1996. So on All Saints' Day, we'll talk about the big saints on the wall. I will remember the saints in my life. Who are the saints in your life you'd like to thank God for today? Just be grateful, happy, appreciative, because they blessed you. The next phrase goes like this. I'm going to take a nap. Which is what my father said to me. But it wasn't taking a nap in the house in the bed. Because we were out sailing on our little boat in the Potomac River in Virginia. And Dad loved to sail his little 19-foot sloop around. It was called the Chips, C-H-I-P-S, named after one of his dogs. An Airedale named Mr. Chips. So he named the boat after the dog. And I learned to sail on that boat on the Potomac River, and I was in high school and even way younger. At first, you see, I would do all the dirty work, not the skilled work, because Dad didn't want me to crash the boat. But I would take down the sail, and I would grab the lines when I had to reach over the edge to go up to the mooring or push us off the dock. Dad was always careful I wasn't going to kill myself doing something. But one day, we were on a really nice day because the winds don't always blow that good on the river. I don't know if you know about sailing, but the Potomac River is not exactly the sailing capital of the world. And so the winds are fluky because they come off the land in funny ways. But we were going right down the middle of the river, and we had a good wind this day. That's the crazy thing about sailing. People say they love sailing. Most of the days you sail are terrible. I mean, there's no wind, and you kind of sit there at the tiller pretending you're sailing. Then you fire up the motor and go back to home. But this was a great day. It was maybe 15 knots, and the boat was going as good as it can go. And I was on the tiller. That's the thing that steers the boat when you have a rudder. And Dad trusted me with the boat. And he said, I'm going to go take a nap in the cabin. So he went down to this little cabin, which you can't stand up. There's a 19-foot boat. How big could it be? And so he went down to take a nap for like 10 minutes. And I felt like I was the most important person in the world because I was the captain of the vessel, and my dad was letting me sail without any, oversight. And the wind was blowing, and Dad was napping. Not every saint is up on the wall. Not every saint is an icon. Not every saint do people know. I don't know what my dad was. He was an Episcopalian sometimes, and he was a Baptist at one point, and then he was a Christian Scientist, and then I think he said, oh, who the heck knows? But he was a saint to me because God's love came through my dad. And I know he was not a perfect guy. I've been to enough therapy to know that. But on that day in the Potomac River, when he said, I'm going to go take a nap, why don't you handle the boat? Dad was a saint. So, and my dad died in the 2000s. So, I'm so grateful to God for showing His light through the people in my family who are important to me. My brother, my mom, my dad. Who is it in your life on this All Saints Day you can remember just with gratitude, thankfulness? You know those people were not perfect. You know they were not the saints on the wall. You know they weren't perfect Christians, but you know that they meant something important to you. And you don't have them with you any longer right now. But you can look back and say, thank you, God, for those people in my life that were so important to me because your love came through them. So, my Maserati does 185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive. Perfect lunch every day. Perfect meal every night. Came to every match. I'm going to go take a nap now. Those are the saints in my life. Thanks, God, for their love. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.